Welcome to Restoring Childhood on the Same Page. I'm your host, Ryan Dalton, and today we are talking about Chapter 12, which is What Parents Can Do Now. I have three amazing parents here with me. Thank you for being here. I'm going to let you all introduce yourself, so we'll start right over here.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Clark. I am mom to Charlotte, who is 13, in the thick of middle school, and William, who is 7, doing all things what boys do. Thank you for having me tonight.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
I am Ali Olsen. I have 4 children, 20, 17, 14, and almost 11. So I've been doing this a hot minute, and interested in the timing of a lot of the research and when I was raising my babies. So yeah.
Yeah, interesting. 20. That's kind of the scope of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get there. Yeah.
My name's Nicole Pisapia, and I am a mother of 3. I have one in the Putnam's County School System, and then 4-year-old twins who are coming up for next year. So just really happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I know that you are all parents, and we know each other from Avery Trace, that's how we had the connection. But movement is kind of what's connected us. And I know from a parent perspective, at least, it seems like you all were kind of already on the vibes of this before this. And you had read this.
I hadn't read the book, but I'd been following the work of Dr. Haidt,
Okay.
Ironically on social media for probably a year.
As we all do.
And that's just, all of a sudden this appeared, and it was just like, wow, how do we join? This is great.
Yeah. So
thanks.
Yeah. No, thank you. I mean, I really like the way that has happened, and I think social media. This is the whole point: is technology, social media is not all bad. It's how a lot of people have found out about restoring childhood. I mean, it's how you followed Jonathan Haidt, but it's about how we're using it and how early and how much we're exposing our kids to it. And that's really the issue. But it is interesting that we sort of connected through social media in a sense.
Yep.
We were like PTO. So, I mean, I'm not on the PTO, but I'm a T. That's what the T stands for.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
just
right.
making sure.
Right.
Yeah. I'm the
You're
T. Okay. So yeah. But so this chapter, I wanted to get parents that I knew were kind of in on this, really believing in it. And I really like how this chapter, where he starts off on the very first page, and he says, "For nearly all of human history, people grew up in environments where they observed many people caring for many children. There was plenty of local wisdom and no need for parenting experts." And I like how who helped him with this chapter also is the person who wrote this book, Lenore Skenazy. And she talks a lot about that, like the parenting experts and how they've kind of shifted how we parent and all that. But I like the idea of a community raising kids. And we've moved so far away from that. And it's really hard. You're not originally from here, right? And so I didn't live here for 20 years. And I am an older parent for the age of my kids. And even after moving here, not being here for 20 years, I can see that things have really changed in a sense of how parents trust each other or don't trust each other, how society, we don't have this communal, collective mindset when it comes to raising kids. And I think some of that is based in fear of if I see a kid in Walmart who's maybe doing something they're not supposed to or whatever, used to when I was a kid, a random person was like, "Hey, don't do that," whatever. And now there's fear of intervening because of potential negative repercussions. But him opening with that idea takes the pressure off of parents and puts it back onto a collective. So right from the jump, that is something that stood out to me, is just how much parenting has changed over the course of these years, along with all the impacts of the cell phones and things that he speaks about. What were some things that kind of stood out to you all about this chapter, just overarching themes or things or quotes that stood out about this particular chapter?
I mean, I guess so for me, that stands out and then taking it further is that, yes, we now, like my generation of parents are kind of getting their parenting advice, so to speak, from influencers and social media. Like I'm growing up in this parent realm of, seeing the Pinterest level parenting and the things that I'm supposed to be doing, or at least they tell me I'm supposed to be doing, and curating this childhood for my kids. And it's very different than the childhood I had. I was going outside. My mom was not going to be the one to entertain me all the time. And I had a great time even playing by myself. And so that matters so much. And the fact that we just rely on these ideas that someone came up with. I don't even know where this happened, that everything had to be so perfect and so organized that, if you didn't have, this many extracurricular activities and, this project happening, these sensory bins, and if it wasn't all perfect, that you were like failing as a parent somehow, And so like I definitely sort of felt trapped to that, and have tried to do more and be more based off of these sometimes almost unreachable social standards that have been created, And so there's a quote in here that really stood out to me about that. And it's when they talk about, as for our own interactions with our children, they don't have to be optimized. They don't have to make every second special or creative.
Yeah.
We just have to be present with them.
Yeah.
And then of course he goes in to talk about how we need to be present, but, in the moment with our child, not halfway on the phone, back and forth. So I think that really stood out to me so much here.
Yeah.
Just not being so hard on myself as a parent, and
Yeah.
just letting kids be kids.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
think a very similar perspective as you, and I grew up in a world similar to probably you all, where we just were told to get outside and figure it out, jump in the leaves, make leaf piles, be back when it got dark. And now we're in an environment where we're afraid to let our children go outside without our supervision. We're afraid to let them get hurt. We're afraid to, they're afraid to not be told what to do.
Yeah.
And so that really stood out to me as well. We're also, taught that things need to be perfect, so that it can be that it can live on social media and be recreated next year and memorized next year. And so, that really stood out to me, and it made me reflect on the way that I grew up, and that I, had so much fun just being outside and not having all of the bins and the et cetera. I figured out how to be a kid.
Yeah.
And we've really gotten back to basics at our home. And it's been fun for my kids. It's been very challenging for them, but it has been fun for them. They've had to figure it out, and it's taken some time, but it's been great. It's been great. So very similar perspective.
Well, and my education is in child development and family relations.
Okay.
So I dove in before I had children about child development and what a home can be and what parents can do. And it's interesting. I did read before 1950s and the 70s, parenting wasn't used.
Yeah.
And you largely were raising your families with families.
Yeah.
And because of our movement across the nation with jobs, that's kind of gone away. I don't know when this parenting and how we do it and all of that came to be, but it did. And that's what I love about the chapter is we can, as parents that grew up in this time frame, we know what it was like. But I recently asked some young moms, they're having their children young and they're coming into this. I said, where are you getting your parenting advice?
Yeah.
And they said, we call our moms. And I was like, fantastic. But my mom has been gone for several years. So I thought back to my childhood. I did look to books. I was looking for guidance when I was raising my kids, and it was play-based. They need to be play-based. And so there was advice early on about screens. And because of the environment we live in, because we can't take it back, and they're not, the parents raising their kids now have grown up in this Pinterest world, and I love that. I remember when I discovered Pinterest. I was having so much fun. But there can be a mixture and help to know, because there's data that shows what is helpful and what is not helpful. And obviously your upbringing and your experience can inform you of what you would want, whether it was good or bad for your children. But what I liked about this chapter is it broke down what is appropriate for what ages, and it can give parents and soon-to-be parents and grandparents that information they need to make choices around what they're doing with their kids as far as play and screens and social media and all of that. So
Yeah.
it's very helpful.
Well, what's interesting too, and I bet you all having multiple kids, not just like single children, even our own kids are just so different from each other. Like
Yep.
the way that I raised my firstborn is different in many ways than how I raised my secondborn. And it's very much falls into that meme thing that you see where it's like the video of like the firstborn sitting there doing whatever, the secondborn like, you know.
That's true.
But like I think about some of this parenting advice and things. It's like this kind of just overarching thing of like this is how you parent, and even within my own parenting experience, it's very
different.
yeah, for each kid even.
Yeah, and you can be other types of parenting approaches, but you have to consider, your personality
Yep.
and the parents in the home personalities and who's raising the children, and you can't change your personality,
Yeah.
but you can change your approach and put things into place that are going to be helpful. Like Leia, like kindergarten is like, it's a German word, I believe. It's like garden play,
Yeah.
which is what he talked a little bit about in here, not making a business approach. We're going to do this, and produce this product.
Yeah.
Don't try and do that with children. You'll be kicking at the pricks. a
Yeah,
bunch.
well, he literally talks about the difference between approaching it as a carpenter or a gardener.
Right.
And he says, your job is to create a protected and nurturing space for plants to flourish. So the
Right.
kids, instead of doing it in this real rigid way, that we're more of a garden and the different plants need different things. And then I like how he then goes further and he's actually quoting Gopnik. I don't know if I said that correct, but a different author who's talking about this concept. And he says, our job as parents is not to make a particular kind of child. Instead, our job is to provide a protected space of love, safety, and stability in which children of many unpredictable kinds can flourish.
Yeah.
Our job is not to shape our children's minds. It's to let those minds explore all the possibilities that the world allows. Our job is not to tell children how to play. It's to give them the toys. We can't make children learn, but we can let them learn. And that was really good to me because even with, I think, maybe a more progressive mindset of parenting, and I also work for New York City. Besides Putnam County, I work for New York City Public Schools, and I do restorative practices, which is just like a totally alternative form of discipline that is like more of a discipline that makes sense. And that's how I also parent as well. And even with that, I find sometimes instead of like, I am sometimes trying to raise a particular child, a particular type of child, and I have to let myself back up and say, no, I have to figure out how to create the space for them to be themselves in a safe way and in a way that's kind and in a way that's respectful. But this was a bit of a challenging thing for me to read this and say like, oh yeah, no, I need to be.
Yeah. We're not producing products.
Yeah.
We're not.
Absolutely.
We're
A lot of self-reflection to be able to
Yes.
adopt those principles.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
let go of your own
Well, and
bias.
culture teaches us this is what you do. This is how you do it. But after 20 years, my husband and I, we are the same people, but our children are all different, and we had to change the parenting approaches because they're all at different stages, different ages, different personalities. But that, we studied Maslow's hierarchy of needs when I was back in school. I don't know if they still use that,
They
but
do.
it was that foundation of protection and
Yeah.
love and needs so that they can flourish. So,
Well,
Yeah.
speaking of changing tactics and shifting things, we had an interesting conversation at the very beginning of the school year. And I'm going to put a little other caveat with that. I think with this movement, some parents feel in too deep. They're like, it's too late. I have a middle schooler already on a cell phone, already on all the social media apps. I think a lot of parents feel that, and I feel for them because also, and we've spoken in previous episodes, that parents even use devices as kind of the carrot or the punishment. Like,
Yep.
if you don't do this, I'm taking your phone away, and that kind of thing. And they've grown so accustomed to that, they can't think outside of what does it look like to even discipline or correct without this. But you shared a very interesting story with me, and I would love for you to share that.
Yeah, thank you. So, first of all, I just want to say thank you for starting this movement. I love to read, and it came at the perfect time that I was ready for a new book. And I think that is one of the things that our children need to see us doing is reading actively. And it is a practice that both of my kids see me doing, and they know that they need to give me space for that. And now both of my kids enjoy reading. And so I think it is a practice that we have to keep alive.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yeah.
So I started reading the book, and I was a couple of pages in, and I immediately got convicted. I have a 13-year-old who was really enjoying a cell phone, and we got it for her because a variety of reasons. She plays a ton of sports.
Yeah.
She's doing a lot. She's very, very active, very responsible, but we needed to be able to get in touch with her. And her app use started with very innocent things. I want to play piano, so I need a piano app. She plays piano. Then it turned into, I want to, do this hair app. Then I wanted this app. Then I wanted that app. And it kind of spirals before you know it.
Yeah.
And, and then friends influence our app choices. And although I was allowing it, it still was an out of control thing. And about a chapter or so in, I just down deep in my heart was like, ugh, I have made some grave mistakes. And so I invited her to come in and sat her down, and I said, I'd love to have your phone. And she handed it to me, and I said, what I'd like to do is I'm reading this book. It's talking a lot about the implications of cell phone use at an early age, about app use at an early age, and I'd like for us to take these off of your phone. And she said, what did I do wrong?
Oh.
And I said, you did nothing wrong, sweetie. I did.
Mm.
And it was hard for her. It was very hard for her socially.
Yeah.
At first. She was like, great, how am I going to talk to my friends? How are they going to communicate with me? How am I going to know about this? How am I going to know about that? And I said, you know what? I'm going to communicate with all the parents, let them know what I've done, let them know I'm reading this, all the great things I'm learning. And I'm going to ask them if there is something that you are missing to let me know. And so I talked to the parents that are in her circle of friends, and they're like, wow, you're really brave. You are really doing a brave thing. You've got a teenage girl, raging hormones, and you're taking away the thing that she loves. Tell us how that's going. And I said, okay, sounds great. And it maybe a day or two, she was, confused, conflicted, those types of things. And it wasn't long after that she came to me and said, Mom, thank you.
Mm.
Thank you for taking that off my phone. I did not realize the impact it had on me. I was checking my phone. I was checking nothing bad, but nothing productive. Yeah. And so, I try to share the story because it can be done.
Yeah.
And she has not asked for any of it back. She doesn't want it back. She understands that, it wasn't doing anything productive for her. And she does notice that her friends are on their phones a lot.
Yeah.
She sees that. I want her to be healthy. She understands that I'm helping her do that. And so again, this is good stuff.
Yeah, and I think it is that's an amazing story of it's not too late. If you feel as a parent you need to shift something, do it. Because we don't know what we don't know.
Yes.
But once we know it, what are we going to do with this information? Yeah. And I commend you on that, because that was there are even parents who've read this and are still like, I just don't know if I can do this. It's it's going to cause her to be isolated socially. Mm-hmm. And but when we get, and that's why I like the idea of this collective movement, of if we get multiple families doing this and agreeing, and like the wait till ninth pledge, then we have more families that have made this decision, and you don't have to fear that your child will go over to someone's house and everybody's on their phone except for her.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, that was when you told me that story. I was just like, well, this needs to be the commercial for restoring childhood. But yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. One more thing that, I took my book with me on the plane and was reading it and got into a really great conversation with another mom. She saw me reading it and she said, I've seen this book, I've not read it. Tell me a little bit more about it. And she also had a teen daughter. And she kind of read over my shoulder a couple of pages and she was like, I'm gonna have to do this. And we got to talking about it. And I think just taking some of the stigma off,
yeah,
and again, talking out loud with other parents and making it normal, that, we're going to take back childhood.
yeah,
We're going to take it back. I think that's so important.
yeah, absolutely.
So important.
And I think like what at least I try not to do is, this is not about blaming people and saying like, oh, you're a bad parent
Yeah.
because you did this, because we do the best that we can do.
Yep.
Like every parent out there, I'm 100% sure, is just doing the best they can with the resources they have. But again, once we've been introduced to this and we see like, oh, this is a thing, I think it's hard to not act.
There's really no going back when you read data about, suicide rates,
Yeah.
180% increase. I mean, that, if you need one liner from this book that
Yeah.
makes you change anything, that's the liner.
Absolutely.
That's it. So that's a hard line.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, they might be a little sad. They might experience some type of, social isolation in the virtual world, but like we could literally lose them forever, and that's far worse.
It's unacceptable.
Yeah,
Well, as far as like, we always make shifts and corrects in our parenting and what we're doing with our kids, and we've definitely had to do that, and because introducing them to these things and the new technology and all of that stuff is really cool. Like we have so much great technology. I know video games go into that, and you get excited about introducing these things to your kids because you want them to have fun and have connection and have experience and know how to work in the real world. But at what point is that appropriate?
yeah,
That's what's important. Like I remember probably introducing our kids to video games or screens at too early an age, and we had to backtrack. And I'm just here to say, like, it's our job to say no and to set boundaries. That's
Yeah.
our job as parents because we know best. We know what's going to help them the most.
Yeah.
And I saw the negative side effects of having too much and pulling back, and the backlash. We don't like things that we like taken away from us either. And
Yeah.
children are going to behave in a way that's age appropriate for them.
yeah,
But knowing what we know, and I've noticed consistency in setting boundaries and how we're going to interact with screens and phones, and they get used to it. They know the expectation, and it goes over better when we've had those conversations and said, we probably shouldn't have done this. We're backtracking a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's okay to say, we got to reevaluate here, and let's do something different.
Being able to say, I was wrong.
yeah,
you know? And then we can blame Dr. Height.
yeah. Or me, blame me. I don't care.
He's the expert. So,
Yeah.
It's his fault.
Yeah, but I mean, I had to do that, and I've spoken about this multiple times with all of this, but I did that with my own child.
Mhm.
I had promised her when she gets to 5th grade, middle school, that's when she could have a smartphone. Just thinking like, yeah, that makes sense. Like middle school, that's a milestone, whatever. And I read this, and I had to sit down and say like, I don't lie to you. I try not to go back on my word, but this is the reason. And I think kind of when you put it in the way that you did, and when you put it in a way where kids understand it, even if they don't, they're unhappy with it.
Yeah.
When you express it that it's in their best interest, you're doing it for their health, even if they don't fully get it. I think that makes a big difference. And even the other day, I was talking about Roblox because my kids have tablets, and they have very limited tablet time. But they had actually originally downloaded it at their mom's house and used the fake birth dates and all that to download it which I said, no, we're not doing that. I had deleted those accounts. I started an account so that I could start the child accounts, which do have like all these limitations and restrictions. But I'm just seeing all these reports of just how overwhelmed with predators Roblox is.
Yes.
And I told that to my oldest daughter. Hey, I've read multiple articles about this. I'm considering. I didn't even say I'm definitely doing this. I said I'm considering deleting Roblox off your thing because of this. And she was like, "What is it?" And I explained it. She said, "Please delete that off my thing." And I was like, "Okay," but she got it. It wasn't a fight, and she understood that, like, yeah, no, I don't want some creepy person trying to meet up with her, and she got it and was totally fine with it, even though they enjoy playing that game and stuff. So I also think it's how we word it and how we have these conversations with them.
It's not a punishment.
No, it's not a punishment.
Yeah.
Right.
Quite the opposite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly.
it's not about control. It's not about punishment. It's about just their well-being. And yeah, I mean, he lays out just how dire position we're in.
Yeah.
So in this specific chapter, I like he kind of gives suggestions what parents can do. On 272, he has that more and better real world experience. And I liked some of these suggestions that he gave, because I did mention in the beginning, our society, our culture has shifted when it comes to neighborhoods and communities and, being a community. Were there any of these that kind of stood out to you, or anything? I know that there was one for me that really stood out, but was there any of these that kind of you thought like this is cool, or that stood out to you per se?
One thing that we've tried to do, because like my goal is to not have my children live with me eventually.
Yeah.
So that letting them out of my sight, everything has to come in a different stage of age appropriate times. So when letting them out of my sight, like, hey, I'm going into the other room now when they're little babies. Obviously that doesn't work for a 14-year-old, you're way beyond that. But what I liked about this is like baby steps to make them more independent and to gain skills. So what I liked about this is there were great suggestions, but it's like, at what age do we do these things?
Yeah.
Like I need to go to the grocery store, but can you go in and get it?
Yeah.
Because they're not driving yet. Or like, hey, can you go get this at the grocery store?
Yeah.
And some of these do not apply to our area or do not apply to your own family circumstances. So you kind of have to get a little creative with, like, I'm not going camping. Like, no, I would go camping, but some of us, I'm not going camping. I don't want to do that. So what can you do to create this space of free play that's wonderful?
Yeah.
But so just, and some people aren't, there's some of these things I wouldn't do. So I think it's great that there's so many suggestions, but that one of letting them out of their space to feel confident, that risky play that I think maybe it talks about in that book, I'm not sure.
Absolutely.
It's safe and structured, not structured, but safe, and still it builds their confidence to be able to go forward and do other things. So I like that one of letting them out of your sight. And the grocery store is great for that one.
Yeah.
And then driving to the grocery store later, and I don't want to go, and you have a driver. It's
eventually.
amazing.
I hear that's actually an amazing thing.
Amazing. And they're so much fun. They can go as siblings, and it's an adventure. And they get a treat, and you're like, I just scored. I don't have to go to the grocery store. So, yeah.
I like that you bring up that maybe all of this doesn't apply to our community, and that's where we have to get creative. And I think it's where it comes up with where there are like these collective issues, we have to have collective solutions. And even though, like, encourage walking to school in a group. In the last episode, we had Corby King here and Jill Ramsey and Sarah Harvick, and one of the things I said that I feel like has shifted our culture in schools and towards schools is we've moved away from neighborhood schools. Zoning, when I was a kid, the schools were neighborhood schools. So the school itself would serve the neighborhoods around the school, and kids could walk to school, they could ride their bikes to school. And that's true for some communities, like Capshaw, has that, but then they also have places across town. And Avery Trace, I mean, I'm shocked when I see our zone sometimes. I will be looking up an address to send a letter to a parent or whatever, and I'm like, that's in our zone? Like, it's like way, like almost over there near Cane Creek Park kind of thing. So we've moved away from this sort of neighborhood thing, but he suggests for that drive to 5.
Yep.
So he comes up with this cool suggestion of, okay, maybe we don't all live near the school, but we could all meet at I'm thinking Avery Trace, like at Big O Donuts, and have donuts that morning. The kids could have donuts and then walk to school.
Yeah.
Something like that. So where it doesn't possibly fit for our community, I do think there's an opportunity to find creative solutions for that.
We've done that a little bit with our group. We did that last year, and it really does create a sense of community. It gets them really excited about going to school, and I think that's really important that you do that.
Yeah.
It gets the parents involved. It gets the kids involved. It gets everybody involved, and it really is exciting. So I love that idea about the Big O's. And walking to school. Capshaw also does a really great couple times a year, the walk to school day, and it's a really fun thing for families, for kids. They do a really nice job of making sure everybody has fun with that, and I think we should praise that those efforts and make sure that we do that more.
Yeah, I think just expand, because there are, and that's what has been really great with this. Is seeing that we're actually farther ahead in this than what we realize maybe. We already have several schools with wilderness areas, which is awesome. We already have initiatives like that, Walk to School. Also, Amy Underwood at Capshaw does the morning time play in the gym, or at least she did last year, which is one of the suggestions in the book. So I think there are already things happening here that we can just improve and boost. But this is kind of shed a light to be like, no, actually that's important. We do that once a year. Let's do it once a month, That to me is really stood out.
I think another thing that really sort of hit home was the free play, more of that.
Yeah.
Because I know in my family, like, we have these activities there, the sports and the dance and, karate and all these things, and great. And it's wonderful and it's enriching, but not just like free play in my house. I want my kids to go out and play with the neighborhood kids.
Yeah.
Like, how do you find your neighborhood kids if you don't really know them? And so I like the fact that they talk about the, forming child-friendly neighborhoods and play groups, Like, get some parents involved and just invite them, and if you invite them, they will come, type of a thing, And I think I would love to see that happen, in my neighborhood for sure. I think it takes a little bravery on the part of parents too.
Yep.
I don't know how all parents feel, but I hear very often that people feel like it's really hard to make other parent friends.
Yeah.
And like, you're really kind of isolated, and you feel like you don't have a community.
Yeah.
Unless you have a specific community for a certain reason, like
Yeah.
a church group or something. But like, even in your own neighborhood, neighbors don't tend to know each other anymore, So how do we be brave and reach out to our neighbors and knock on a door and say, hey, you have kids, I have kids. You want to get the kids together? I have snacks, I'm a safe person. Can we do this? I would like to do that. So anybody else want to do it, find me.
Yeah, well, and we're not too far away from each other. So we are, and we've talked about this.
Okay.
So we have to.
We're forming a play group.
I wish you were my neighbor.
We can come over.
Your neighbors.
Yeah, won't you be my neighbor? But yeah, I also put a big exclamation point by that, and I think that the idea, and even I like that, just sort of have parents take turns sitting outside after one afternoon a week. Just the idea of like, there is an adult that's there if somebody needs something, but the kids are out and about. I like the idea of like having more block parties.
Yep.
That's really come up in my brain a lot with this, is potentially at some point, and maybe we'll shoot for the spring. Maybe we could still get one this fall, but having a block party day in Cookeville where neighborhoods all across the city just all like block off their streets and do old-fashioned block parties, and everybody comes out into the streets. The kids can play without worrying about traffic, and people get to know each other. I really feel like those are the types of things that we need to bring people out and kind of force that interaction a
Yeah.
bit, where we start to build that trust again with each other.
Yeah.
It's one of the main things that this author speaks about, who helped him with these final chapters of the book, is just that distrust that we've built with each other. And I would also highly recommend this. But yeah, like it's sad that we've reached that point. And it is that culture of safetyism and fear that's fed into that, where we have to, and we do live in very polarizing times where a lot of people have very strong opinions about everything. And I think social media has fed into that.
Yeah.
I don't think we were made to have access to thousands of people's thoughts every day, all the time.
Yeah.
I think like that has really ruined the way we've come to know each other and interact with each other.
Yeah.
Um,
I've lived across the country, from the west, the east, the middle. Like, we've lived in 5 different states, and there are mostly good people in this world
Yeah.
who just want to do the best and be the best and contribute well. And so we do get a lot of information. We see the worst of things, but by and large, like, people are just good and they just want to be happy and you to be happy. And so it's encouraging that I lived across the country and I've seen many different cultures, religions, large, big. Like, I grew up in the city. I've lived in smaller communities in Cookeville, and people are they're wonderful people. I don't think we have to be as afraid. I think statistically in here, it does talk about, like, it is actually safer now in the United States to be a child. Crime rate's down.
in the real world, at least, not on Roblox.
Right.
No. In online
Absolutely.
There's more predators,
Yeah.
and that he talks a lot
Yeah.
about that. You, unfortunately, we get told that you let your child out of your sight and they will be abducted,
Yeah.
and that's happening in our homes.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
we've had experience with that in our home, where unpleasant things digitally come into our home, and we've had to navigate that. And never have I had that issue in 20 years with raising children who were play-based, who were at parks, who were outside, who were with people. It happened in my home.
Yeah.
So, it's just a great conversation to have and realize we are much safer outside than we might think we are.
Yeah. And even more so when we collectively say, like, we're committing to this.
Right.
Absolutely.
We're looking out for each other again, and where we do have this, back to like the beginning of the chapter, this idea that it's not just the parent's responsibility to raise children. We live in this individualistic society where it's like, it's on you. You had the kid, you raised the kid. But like, I really truly believe, as humans, as a species, we are made to help each other and live together in community. And we are such communal beings. And we've really taken that out. And I think our kids are suffering, and we're suffering as parents. We are isolated, and it's hard sometimes. Like I said, moving here after 20 years of not living here, like, where do I go get an app to like meet local parent? But also, like, I have 2 girls, and I'm a single dad, and I have 2 girls. And so even that is like, other parents are like, oh, he's a dude, like, I don't know about my kids having a play date and that kind of thing. And it's just so much to kind of work through. But I think when we start building that community back, I think that's where we need to go.
Got to start somewhere.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah.
So Saturday.
Yeah, see you there. Where are we meeting? Yeah, but really, I do think, as we move out of the book study, I mean, we have 2 chapters, 2 weeks left, 1 chapter, and then the final week is kind of where to from here. I do think one of the where to from here is really looking at this. Where do we want to go from here as a community? How can we take this into action to support families, to support kids? So it's one of the things for all of us to be thinking about. What can we do to make this happen in our communities, in our neighborhoods?
Well, one of the things that I do think about is, so society has shifted, and a lot of times we have 2 parents working. So it's really difficult for kids that are home, their parents are working, and how do they get out?
Yeah.
It's a good question to think about.
Yeah.
Is like, yeah, I want to do this, but I can't do it. So that's also something I think we need to consider. Like, parents have great desire for kids to be doing this, but work sometimes it's not an option.
Yeah.
So, maybe weekends or park dates, or I don't know. I think that that's a good point to bring up, is that it's not always possible to be doing those things because of other commitments that exist within the home, or single parents or grandparents that are raising children that don't have energy or capacity to get out. So I think that's also a good conversation and something to acknowledge, that where desire is great, that you're gonna have to get creative a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to tell you, but we've run out of time. I think we could talk about this forever.
Absolutely.
But does anybody have any final thing, something you would want to share with a parent, or if you, I read the book, I think is one, but what would you say to parents out there who maybe feel it's too late and too deep, or just I think this is too big of a shift, we can't do it? What would y'all say?
I would probably say just, definitely have an open mind. I think that is a core principle of being able to do this. Have an open mind about it, be willing to approach something new, try something different. Just because we've created this new culture over the last, 15 years doesn't mean that it has to be forever.
Yeah.
So again, when we know better, we can do better. The data is clear. So we don't have to be perfect. We just have to try and put ourselves out there. And I think that starts with us, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, we've just got to start somewhere. Starting small is starting.
Yeah.
And so even if that means starting the book and taking one small action at a time, and trusting ourselves that we can do change, we can make change, would be my closing thoughts.
Awesome.
One of the things in here that I highlighted was the cure to parental anxiety is exposure. I wrote next to that baby steps baby steps.
Yeah.
Just kind of a little bit what you said as well. Just start somewhere. Just make a shift somewhere. In anything that we're trying to shift over, it takes time, and we're never perfect. And don't make it overwhelming. Don't be like, oh, I'm completely swinging the pendulum. But yeah, so.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you all on Saturday at the play date.
Great.
But really,
great.
thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all your insight on this, and thanks for helping us get on the same page. Literally.
Thank you for
Thank
everything.
you.
All of the whole restoring childhood
Yes.
is
Thank you.
really your doing.
Oh,
Yes.
yes, it's
Wonderful
my
job.
pleasure for sure.
Thank you.